In just 8 days, cars will be back on the track. We're going to have practice for the LA Coliseum Clash, and I am excited for it. I'm sure many of you are as well. With that comes some new looks. The first race of the season, the first time cars are on track, we're going to have some new looks, some different drivers in different teams, some different paint schemes, different sponsors, even some different number fonts. So we're going to look at a few of those today. I've got some paint schemes here lined up, and we're going to look at them, rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Obviously, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And there are some good ones this year. Let's start off with the number 3 of Austin Dillon, his Bass Pro Shops car. It's a dark car this year. They have, in the past, done a lot of orange in the middle of the car, it seems like. They've done some orange lines that go all the way through. And they do that a little bit this year. There's a lot of orange on the front end, but it's a tiny, just small line that goes right under the window net to the back of the car. But the majority of it is that dark green, and then the back half of the car is camo. I actually really like the camo part. I think it's really neat looking. I think it's cool. I think it really just screams Bass Pro Shops because, you know, Bass Pro Shops, fishing, hunting, all that stuff, that's where you get it. So I really like the camo part. The front part, I kind of wish they did keep the camo for the whole car. I think that would have been really cool. But it's a neat little color, I guess, the darkish green, if we can call it that. And that is kind of like something you would see in a camo. So it's not like an absurd color that just makes no sense. It does make sense, but I wish they kept the camo through the whole car. But it's still a really good looking car. Is it his best Bass Pro Shops paint scheme? I'd have to think about that, but I do really like the camo. That's the thing that's selling me on this. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. A solid looking race car, but I have my thoughts on it. With the camo, I wish it was all the way through. Next up, Kevin Harvick, his final season. Here is his gear wrench car. SHR did great with the paint schemes last year, whether it was Briscoe with Mahindra, Harvick with, well, all of his paint schemes were good last year. Custer had some all right paint schemes, and Almirola Smithfield was cool. But here is the gear wrench car for Kevin Harvick. Looks kind of similar to the one from last year. I guess, is that an orange? Is that a brown? Whatever color that is, where it says wrench and then the logo on the hood. It seems more reflecty than it has been. But once again, still a very good looking car. Very solid paint scheme. With the identifiable colors of gear wrench, and then obviously they use up the space well, putting the whole word gear wrench from about the start of the window net to almost the fuel cell. So, yeah, really good looking car. 8 out of 10. It's not bad. Next up, we got a couple of Brad Keselowski cars. This one, I don't know if it's going to be running any races, but it was running that Phoenix test this past week. The Ken Block Tribute car. Very good tribute. Ken Block, international race car driver. He did rallying. He did some other types of, kind of intense racing, like rallying where, you go off-road, that kind of thing. Tragically passed away at the beginning of the year. And RFK, Brad Keselowski, decided to run a tribute car similar to one of his cars with the paint scheme. They, even in one of the windows, I think they put like Ken Block and his number, kind of like his cars would do. So a very thoughtful and well put together tribute kind of paint scheme. So I really like, even the look of it's really good. Even if, if it wasn't a tribute car, it's a nice looking car. The number looks good. The colors look good. It flows well. It's a really good car. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's a really good tribute. Really beautiful tribute. So really good looking car. Really good tribute. Good job, RFK. Good job, Brad Keselowski. Another Brad Keselowski paint scheme. They got a new sponsor. It's called Nexlizet. I think I pronounced that wrong. But it's a white car. It's got some pink and some, I guess that's yellow. Maybe it's a tannish yellow. Maybe. It's not like ugly or anything. It's just kind of boring, I guess, in my opinion. I wish they used the pink more. Like the white base of the car, it looks more like a test car than anything, with the majority of it white. It's not as bad as William Byron's Raptor paint scheme from last year. That was just a test car. So this one's better than that. It's not great though. I wish they used more pink. Maybe the pink and yellow could have flowed a little bit more if you used it in a way, or if you used it on the majority of the car versus the white. I just don't like that the majority of the car is white. I wish they kind of used more of their colors. So 5 out of 10. Could be better. Not the worst thing I've seen, though. Next up, we have a Kyle Busch paint scheme. Kyle Busch, of course, is now at RCR. He is in the number 8 car. We're going to look at one of his sponsors, and this one makes more sense because it's from his home city, essentially. BetMGM. Yes, this is his paint scheme for BetMGM. He's going to take that sponsor. Of course, they sponsored Reddick last year, had a beautiful car last year. This year's car is different, the paint scheme. It seems like there's not any white on this car, whereas there was some last year. But this year, it's all black and gold. And then obviously the letters are white and the number is white. It's not a bad looking car. I don't know if it's as good as last year's. I do like the lion head for the BetMGM on the hood. I think that's nice. There's not a clearer shot of it, really, so you can't really see what the lion looks like, but the side of the car looks good. They're pretty consistent in terms of the lines and the flow of it. The colors look good. I'm curious to see how it's going to look on track outside of the rendering, but it's a solid 8 out of 10. I think that's appropriate for this car, an 8 out of 10. Next up is another Kyle Busch paint scheme, and this one is going to be Cheddar's. Once again, a car that sponsored the 8 car last year, carrying over to Kyle Busch. Cheddar's, a very different look, though. The old Cheddar's car was white and orange, and they had the little croissants going all the way around the car. This year, they decided to invert the colors, I guess, and instead of white, it is now black, and they only have 2 giant croissants at the end of the car, but they have a little bit of a darker orange, almost like a burnt orange. It's a nice looking car. It's not terrible. It's not as good as last year's. Last year's Cheddar's was the supreme Cheddar's car. I do like that they kept the croissants on there and they put them on the back of the car. I wish they did something more in the middle. You know, putting Cheddar's there, that's nice, but the coloring's not bad. I just wish they did a little bit something more with the middle between the tires, you know? But it's still a solid looking race car. It's not terrible. It's not the best or anything. I thought the MGM one was better. I gave that one an 8. I think this one will be a 7.5, which I think, what did I give a 7.5? The Harvick one? The Dillon one? I can't remember, but solid paint scheme. Next up, Chase Elliott, his Napa scheme. It's not ugly. It's just I wish they'd do something different. I guess technically they did something different. I just wish they'd do an all-blue paint scheme again for the Napa car. They did it when he was in the 24, but once he moved to the 9, the white became the base, so there was more white than there should be, and I wish they'd just go back to the all-blue or the majority blue. There's a lot of blue on this car, don't get me wrong, but I just wish they'd use more of the blue. It's not a bad-looking car at all. It's just, I like the blue better. When he was in the 24, I thought those were the best paint schemes that he ever ran in Napa. Even his Xfinity days when he was in the 9. But, you know, it flows well. The blue and yellow look good together. But the white, or not the white, the yellow number on top is new. That's different. Not a terrible look. Not his best Napa scheme. I don't even know if it's better than last year's scheme. The yellow bumper makes it look like he's a rookie. So we'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's not a bad looking car. I just wish they'd be a little bit more creative with it. So yeah. Next up, Chase Briscoe, Mahindra. Slight differences. It's almost the exact same. You got the majority red on the front end, black on the back end. The way it kind of flows, and it's that little square that says Mahindra. But they added some dirt because, of course, it's a tractor. You use tractors in the dirt. You use them on a farm. They get all dirty and muddy, so it looks like he's been in a tractor going through the mud. I think that's a very creative little touch. I really liked this paint scheme last year. Once again, really like this paint scheme this year. We're going to give it an 8.3 out of 10. Don't ask me how I came up with the 0.3. It's just how I was feeling with it. Next up is Prosper, Texas's own Chris Buescher. A different look on the Fast Snell car. Usually, they do a black and blue is what they've done. This year, they went almost all blue, which is not a bad look. They got some hexagons going on there. You got a little flashes of kind of a lighter, brighter blue, almost even looking like a turquoise kind of. But very pretty car. You got the chrome numbers on the side. The roof is just the plain white 17. I wish they were consistent on the numbering. That is one thing I would change. Other than that, I think the blue looks really good. The hexagons are a nice little touch, a little subtle touch to turn it from a test blue car to a true paint scheme. You got the little black lines at the bottom. Not a bad looking car. Gonna give it a 7.7 out of 10. Not terrible. Next up is Martin Truex Jr. Boy, I like this one. I told you the Austin Dillon one, I wish they kept the camo throughout. This one, it seems like they kept the camo pattern throughout. I don't know if that's a true camo. It's obviously not camo colors. It's more of a black, gray, white. But this is a very pretty car. They got the dark gray roof with the orange numbers. They got the orange numbers on the side. This is a very good looking race car. I mean, just everything about it I really like. The orange, the yellow, everything flows together well. The camo pattern is consistent throughout the car. Even at the bottom, near the right front fender, you even see a little of the camo there. Very good looking car, giving it a 9.1 out of 10. What a beauty. Next up is Christopher Bell's DeWalt car. It's kind of similar to last year's, except they just changed the pattern of the black over the yellow. It's not bad. Not great. I don't know why. It's just not talking to me. Like last year's was, I was like, ooh, that's a good looking car. And it's not bad looking. It's just like the way the black sticks out in the back end of the car and kind of goes towards the words DeWalt seems kind of random to me. I don't know why. But I don't know why. I'm just not feeling this paint scheme as much. 6.5, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure many of you will like that car though. This next one, this has not really been confirmed by Team Penske, but this is a leaked image of Joey Logano's Pennzoil car. I think this is going to be the car he uses at Vegas because usually he runs the Shell Pennzoil car. And I'm sure that they'll use the same old paint scheme they always do, like they did last year. But this, for Pennzoil, since it's a Pennzoil 400, they use this at Vegas. This is a very good looking car. This is the most creative Joey Logano Shell or Pennzoil car that has ever been used. And I love it. It reminds me of a Steve Park car when he was sponsored by Pennzoil back in the early 2000s. The black, or the use of the black, is really good. The stripes look really good. The numbers in black look really good. Everything about this car looks great. I love it. I wish they would use it for the majority of the season if that is possible. I doubt it will be. But a very pretty car. I hope this is actually the car that they use. 9.5 out of 10. I love this car for the defending champion. Next up is another one of his cars, the AAA Insurance. It's looking like an Xfinity car. Usually Austin Cindric would have this kind of paint scheme where it was the white with the almost an invert of the normal AAA car, but it's not a bad look. It's basically just inverted. I think it's neat to see it basically inverted. We've seen the blue on top of the white usually, but now it's going to be the white on top of the blue. It's not bad. At least they changed it a bit. 7.5. Next up is the William Byron Raptor car. At least they were creative this year. I hated that car last year. I'm a Jeff Gordon fan. I love the 24. I love the creativity of those cars, but last year's had no creativity. It was a test car. It had two colors. It had no pattern. I could have designed that car. This year they tried something different. Remember, they had to go to a backup car and they had a white and dark gray Raptor car. Well, they decided to go with that this year, except they gave it a little bit more of a flow. Much better than last year's. Last year's was a solid 1 out of 10. This year's it's not bad. It's much better. I will state that. It is much better. The only thing that affects me with this car doesn't even have to do with the look of it. But the more we see this car means the less we see Axalta, and Axalta always had the best paint schemes. That's what's disappointing me here. More Raptor means less Axalta. That hurts my feelings. 6 out of 10. Yes, I'm going to get all emotional here over that. Ryan Preece is 41. They went back to the red base for the 41 car. In the past couple of years, they've done silver. So I really like the red. I really do. It looks much better, and I also like that they did still keep a little bit of the gray. You can see that at the bottom near the back and the black between the red and the gray. I think it's a really good-looking race car. 8 out of 10. Good looking car. Now we get to some of my favorite paint schemes this year. That is Ally in the 48 for Alex Bowman. Ally's gotten a lot of crap for their paint schemes in the past. You look at Jimmie Johnson's first couples, they kind of looked like test cars. There wasn't too much creativity, but they weren't awful looking. Then there's this year's. Oh my goodness. They did the purple base in 2021. It looked great. Last year they went back to a white base, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. This year, it's a purple base, and you have like the flowing of all the Ally colors, purple, pink, that kind of turquoise, green, bluish, white to the back of the car, and it looks fantastic. Really reminds me of Denny Hamlin's paint schemes, 2011 to 2014, where the blue, the white, the orange, I think, would all like kind of spew out of the side of the car and look like like one of those movies you see where they go into the internet and like all the colors start flowing by. That's what it looks like here. This is beautiful. I love this car. I can't wait to see this paint scheme on track. I cannot wait to see this paint scheme in person. This is a beautiful car, a beautiful paint scheme. My favorite paint scheme of 2023. It's a 10 out of 10. I love this paint scheme. I love this car. It's amazing. Next up is the other Ally. They're going to do like a night and day. That's the day car. This is the night car. I also love this one. I don't think it's as good as that first one, but it is amazing. It looks like something you would see in like Tron or something, or Star Wars, you know? It's dark and you got all these kind of lights, these neon looking lights, like something you'd see in a big city, New York, Las Vegas, something like that. When you go down and see all those neon lights, that's what it looks like. And just like the prior car, it looks like it's flowing from the front to the back. You can see the different colors, the pink, the purple, the blue, the tealish turquoise-ish. It's a great looking car. And I also love something I love that they did this year. In the past, they've done the full word Ally on the hood, and they've kind of done it like multiple times. This year, they just did the A. I've been waiting for them to do that, and they finally did it. And I think just the A on the hood looks so much better. These are my two favorite paint schemes. The day car is a 10. The night car is a 9.8. I love both of these. Now for the last one for this paint scheme review, it's going to be Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson's going to be sponsored by Carvana for the Daytona 500. And this is a really good looking car. It's all blue, it's all navy, it's all light blue, and they did a good job with it. Obviously, you got the petty kind of number font there. You got Carvana across the side using up the space well. The flowing of the light blue over the darker blue, and then the navy on the hood, the roof, and the back of the car looks really good. It's a solid car. It's a really good looking car. It's going to be easy to spot, I think, easy to tell that it's Jimmie Johnson. Kind of reminds me of his 2013 to 2015 car that were majority blue, but it was just those white stripes. Just a little bit more creativity on this one. Very good looking car. Very, very good looking car. I think the 84 is a perfect ranking for it. We're going to give it an 8.4 out of 10. That is all the paint schemes I have for you today. We can do another one of these if you want. We can look at different drivers, different paint schemes for some of the drivers we already talked about. In conclusion, Ally and Bowman, their paint schemes are the best. Jimmie Johnson has a solid paint scheme. Martin Truex Jr. had a really good paint scheme. But there were some lacking paint schemes. I didn't like that Brad Keselowski, I can't even remember the sponsor, but the majority white one. But there were a lot of good paint schemes for the most part. So let me know what you think of the paint schemes. We'll talk about more in the LA Coliseum Clash. The Busch Clash at the LA Coliseum is next week. We are getting closer and closer to NASCAR. Let me know your thoughts, and have a great rest of your day.